So to use a flooring nailer, take your flooring after you've pre-nailed your starter courses. Take your next course, you just slide it, take the rubber mallet, kind of bump it in tight. Now there'll be a small gap between the boards. Now as you strike this flooring nailer, it'll pull that gap tight together as it's driving a fastener. Now it's important that you read the manufacturer's installation guidelines to determine what fastener is recommended for your flooring, what gauge and pressure setting. Most of your flooring manufacturers will recommend that you start no closer than 3 inches from the end of the board and about every 8 inches apart in the field. Now for sample or display purposes, we'll nail a little closer. The flooring nailer needs to be positioned on the edge of the wood. You need to hold downward pressure so that the base plate is flush to the surface of the wood. And you want to stand to the angle and strike to the side. You don't want to stand over the nailer because you could cause some damage there with your hands, but stand to an angle. And some people put their foot on the back to hold pressure, but you just, hold the nailer tight to the wood and then strike it. Now you can hit it harder if you have a larger gap, or you don't have to hit it that hard at all, but you can, just the weight of the mallet will activate the gun. But if you have a large gap that needs to be closed, sometimes you have to strike the nailer a little harder. Then you want to check and just make sure, am I nailing flush or countersunk? And we are, and they're good to go. So you just take it, set it here. Now, the 618 does not have a pre-finished flooring adapter, so it will scratch a pre-finished floor if it slides off. So it's important that you put the gun to rest off of the finished surface and then slide it into where you're going to be nailing. Don't ever sit the gun on top of your pre-finished surface. If it's unfinished, it really doesn't matter, but pre-finished, rest it out and then slide it into the wood, hold some downward pressure, and just drop the mallet. Just bump it in. Okay, it's that easy. So once you get rolling, you just tap it in. And if you have a gap in the flooring, you can try to hit it with your mallet. If it doesn't close it up, when it comes time to nail, just strike it a little harder and it'll close it up. It's made to close the gap and drive the nail. You can see that gap is pretty much gone. Here. Bring it in. See, this board is warped, so we need to start at one end and strike it, hold it flush, hold some downward pressure, and just strike the floor nail. And then check it periodically to make sure that your fastener is going in deep enough or not going in too far. And you can adjust that by your air pressure. If things start happening like the nail is not driving, check your air pressure to make sure it hasn't dropped below 70-80 psi. If you're hitting it and your dry blade is staying out, take the dry cover off, check and make sure it's nice and clean. Oil the gun a little and it should start working correctly. Increase the pressure by 10-15 psi. It should operate correctly.